Yeah, clean up your act here.
No banging the table.
Yep. No taking your shoes off, banging on the table.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be careful what you say.
Yeah.
Are we all set?
No
We're ready to
money.
roll. Thank you. I know someone's going to appreciate it.
Oh.
Okay. We got it. All right. We're going to call the meeting to order at 7:08. And we'd like to take, and let's see, we're going to appoint our alternate to sit in for Ralph, and everybody else is a regular member here, so we're ready to roll. The approval of the minutes for January the 2nd, we don't have, so I don't have them. Does everybody else have them? If everybody else has them, but
They only have February.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I reviewed them via email and I motion to approve.
Oh, well, let's see if we got enough.
Second motion.
Okay, you second the motion? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to abstain because I'm.
Okay, yep. And, all right, we got a motion on the table, and we got a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries with one abstention. On February the 6th minutes. Anybody have any comments, questions, deletions? Anything they would like to add or any corrections in here? Then could someone throw a motion on the floor and?
I throw the motion.
All right, and we need a second?
Second.
We got a second over there. All those in favor of approving the minutes of February the 6th? Aye?
Aye.
All set.
Abstain from that, Bob.
All right, very good. Let me just take in, we'll start on the old business, chairman's report, Goodspeed Landing. We had at the revitalization committee a request from the proposed developer for an extension of time. It used to be March the 15th he was going to be presenting the plans. He's asked for an extension to April the 29th. It was granted by the board. And so we are now going to expect a plan for the village to come in on April the 29th. I think that's going to be pretty exciting stuff. I don't know when that's going to get released. It's going to first go to the revitalization committee, and then they're going to basically be negotiating with the proposed developer there. As soon as it's available, or as soon as I have something that can be released, I will get it to this board so that we can review it and comment on it and get our thoughts back to the revitalization committee and kind of go from there. The Five-Town Valley EDCs, would you like to update us?
Sure. We've been meeting, and we've kind of run into a little snafu with Essex. We can't seem to get somebody on board to help us out from Essex. I just got some new names and reached out to both of them, and they seem to be all in. So it's exciting. Like, nothing was happening, and now all of a sudden we'll have something. So we meet next on the 19th here. Actually, East Haddam is hosting it this month. And what we're doing is we're working with Connecticut Shoreline, Explore Connecticut Shoreline, and working with the 5 towns. We're coming up with a logo for a 5-town name that we're still working on. That's still in the works. We're working with a gentleman who has graciously offered his services for free to come up with that logo and help us with the branding of that. And then we'll be putting together the day trips and half-day trips for the concierge tab that will highlight various things within all the 5 towns. So that's where we're at, and we're chugging along, then we stop, and then we chug along, and we stop. But we're getting there. We're getting there.
What time is the meeting?
The meeting is 8:30.
This very room, right?
I don't know which room yet. I have to talk to Linda, but somewhere close by.
It's usually right in this room.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
usually where we have it.
Yep.
And so,
What date is it?
The 19th, Thursday?
Thursday.
all right, anything else we can share from what they're trying to put together, or?
No.
Okay.
We're, like I said, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster as far as getting all of the, we're working with a Google Doc now to try and get all the assets for each town on one piece of paper. And it's just kind of pulling teeth from everybody.
But what is the organization that we kind of joined in with that was the $500 fees that they were going to?
Explore Connecticut
Explore
Shoreline.
Yeah, so that's $400, and
$400.
we're you can actually take a look at it. ExploreCTShoreline.com. You can go on there and you'll see that East Haddam is listed. I think Chester's on there already. I want to say Deep River is there. I think Haddam.
Says
I'm not sure if
Explore
Haddam's
East
up
Haddam.
yet.
Yeah.
And then
They did pay
Essex
the
is
fee, I
not.
think, because didn't I read
Yeah.
that where they are actually on?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we originally were going to all go for a grant together because we thought, we were like a perfect grant kind of thing because we're 5 towns in collaboration and all that. And then the 5 towns, each of them thought better of that and said, you know what, we need to have some stake in the game. And, we should pay the $400 and not worry about a grant, use a grant for other things later as we build this out. So you paid $400 and that basically got the municipality on the site. And then what we did, and we're the first municipalities, actually East Haddam is the very first, but we're the first group of municipalities on the site. And then what we're doing is I kind of contracted a lower rate to get us up on the site so that we could give Explore CT Shoreline partners to go after we put our concierge trips up. So like the first trip that, this all kind of came about was Pat Vance from Eversource took the rail car up and down the rail car in Haddam, and then she came over here for lunch, and then they did a hike over at Devil's Hop Yard, and then they went somewhere for dinner, and they had a whole day that she threw up on Facebook, and everybody was like, "Wow, that's really cool," and they were very
Those are the
excited
kind of
about
cool
it.
things.
So
Those are
that you
great.
can highlight. So what
Yep.
we're doing is we're going to do more of those, and we're going to put them up on that website. But how we're doing it is we're putting together all the assets from all the towns. So restaurants, hikes, attractions, galleries, outdoor recreation, indoor recreation, anything that the towns have, events. And then what we're going to do is go to that master chart and then start putting together these day trips and half-day trips. And the reason we can do this and do this so well is because we all know how long it takes to do all those things and why, what she did could be a half-day trip or be a full-day trip. Whereas somebody who's coming to the area wouldn't necessarily know, can I get all this done? How close is it? Like you're driving around East Haddam is a lot different than driving down, Chester Main Street. So, we understand the time element and all that kind of stuff.
That is so good, though, to take and show what's out here in these towns, and especially doing that little circle, doing the restaurants, where you went for lunch, what you did for an activity, and I think that is so key, though, because people don't know. They don't know where to go.
And this will lead into like art trails and history trails and ice cream trails and brewery trails, and so there's all kinds of different things that we can do within our community. And once we have it kind of really like nailed down and really lock, stock, and barrel kind of a thing, we're going to reach out to Lyme and Saybrook because they are the ones that really have the we have Boardman House if they're still taking people, and we have Essex the Grizz that there's a few rooms there. There's really no rooms because the one in Haddam just closed. Yeah. So there's nothing up here for hospitality. So we really need Lyme and Old Saybrook. So, but we have 5 people on the table that can't get it all together yet. So until we get solid, it's no sense bringing more people in. So as soon as we get that together, we'll reach out.
We can sell ourselves a lot better if we're organized.
Correct.
And, so I think that if we're going to invite others to go in, that we've got to show that we've got it together. But that's great. And let's work on what we could do for those little day trips around East Haddam.
Well, that's what this next meeting is going to be about.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll have all the towns done. I don't know if Essex will be there yet, but we're going to try.
Okay. Perfect. That sounds so good, because I think we've got to basically organize something so that we can basically sell different day trips if you're in whatever you're interested in. So, okay, thank you very much. Moody's Center, P&Z and EDC are going to work together and see what improvements we can make to basically Moody's Village here. We certainly have challenges there. I mean, between the ownership of properties and the condition of properties, and I think that you know, some of them have environmental problems, and they're really tough to overcome. But I think that P&Z wants to see if we can't come up with a better face for Moody's Village. And so I met with Crary Brownell. He's the chair of P&Z. I think it was last week. And we basically, they've got their members together to do this. We've got some members to do this, and so now we're trying to pick a date to do. I'm looking at something that's probably either late in the month or the first of the following month. Anything work better or not good for anybody here? Okay.
I'm traveling the first week of the month.
You are? Okay. So it'd be better the last week.
That makes a huge difference. But
yeah, okay. All right. Let me see what they have. They were going to put a couple of dates together. Then I was going to bring them to us and see if we could get a couple of people together that'll work for them, and go from there. I will see what I'll see what dates they're looking at, and but they have they've got some ideas. Basically, one of the properties up there, I mean, they're considering doing something with a pharmacy. We looked at some site plans and trying to come up with something so that we could help a developer say where it could go, what it could go, and basically even just the things of how it's going to face. How are you going to feed the supplies so that it doesn't have to be, you know, trucks in an area that we want to have a better view line. But I think what we were looking to do is see how we can make a better streetscape when you go through the center of town. And if we can give some guidance to people who are either doing something or propose to do something, I think that maybe they would feel better about coming to planning and zoning if they knew that economic development and P&Z said, you know, this is kind of the model that we'd like to work with. How do you fit into this model? And so that's where we are, and I think that there seems to be some enthusiasm about trying to do something here. So it's going to strictly be, you know, for a little advisory to anybody who's doing something. But I think it would be good too if they're going to. I mean, the grist mill is for sale. It's been for sale, and I think if we had a little idea as to what you could do to reface that area off. Maybe that would help the seller to find a buyer if they could go and say to a prospective purchaser that this is what, you know, the town has said they would like to do. This is the look they would like to have. I think I'd like it if I was, you know, interested in buying a commercial property. I'd like to know what the town wants, and so I think it can be helpful if we take the time to do it, and certainly can't hurt any, and I think it can help. So it would be nice if I think the only way we're going to get this rolling is we've got to get some new ownership and somebody who's willing to put some money into this thing and let it to dress it up a little bit. And but I think if we're going to spend any money, we'd sure like to give some guidance, and hopefully we can get something that looks appropriate for a commercial district in there.
Bob, are you proposing that it's the town's responsibility for the improvements? Or?
Oh, no. All we're doing is trying to give some design, architectural advice.
is it with the grist mill building so much as the Nathan Hale Plaza building?
Both. we're trying to do both sides of the street.
Yeah.
So that when you go through Modus, they're both of them are very, I mean, basically they're just not, well, they're built 50 years ago. And so, you know, they're not, I mean, certainly the plaza, you know, was built awkward to begin with. And so what can you do with it? And I think that if we could give a little advice as to what you could do with it, I think it would be helpful if somebody wanted to do something, and hopefully we could encourage someone to make an investment. That's what it's really going to be about. Somebody's got to take and put some money on the table, and in order to dress this area up and kind of spruce it up a little bit. On another area that we're talking about, and this is down in the lower Town Street area around Staley's Farm and Wolf's Den. We've been talking with Malone and McBroom by our minutes of the last meeting there. That kind of tells what happened at the meeting. Certainly we got the feeling that we wanted to move along with it, move ahead with it. We need to attract some money to do this. Irene and I met at the Board of Selectmen's meeting last night and made a presentation about what it encompassed, the kind of money we were talking about, and what we want to do. And we basically, the Board of Selectmen only had 2 members present, so they want to have a full board. So we're going to go back in 2 weeks and basically make the presentation to the full board, and hopefully we can, we're looking for basically a recommendation to go to the Board of Finance to request some money to take and do that work down there. And I think that we hopefully will get a favorable approval out of the Board of Finance and move on to the Board of Selectmen and move on to the Board of Finance. Selectmen's report. Rob, could you just give us a little?
Well, I'll give you obviously there's been a lot of time spent on budgets the last month. And figures are coming in, and the big nut to crack really is $12 million in capital improvements and capitals that everyone's looking for. So we have to determine whether they're wants or needs. And we'll be starting that discussion on Saturday with the Board of Finance. I'll be giving a presentation to them, as will the Superintendent of School, Brian Reese. But in the meantime, other stuff that's going on in town, which we got a lot of stuff, actually. Johnsonville Bridge is coming along. They're facing it now with the stone, doing additional masonry work, so they shut that or stopped doing that back in December. They were going to try and work through the winter, but it wasn't practical. That may have been the only cold spell this winter, but it was enough to stop them. They started up, I think it was last week. So it's going to be a very attractive bridge down there, and what is obviously a very important part of our town, and we want to keep it that way. The Neptune project, I think I may have given a report, but I've talked to so many people, but originally came in at 1.2 million. We said that's nonsense, and told them to go back to the drawing board and make some changes. We got it down to around 600,000. 600.
Sorry, that's good.
40,000 actually, and which was much closer to what we were looking for. And we could have gotten it down a little bit lower, but the question was whether to put a pipe in that had a life expectancy of 50 years or put a concrete structure in with a life expectancy of 100 years. And the difference in cost to the town was about 17,000. So I opted for the 100-year, and there was a slight delay where there was some additional thoughts on doing a couple things and some questions, but it won't be a June start, but it'll probably be a July start on it. Once it goes out to bid, it should be got to bid very shortly. And these actually go back to the September 2018 flood. I'm sure everyone remembers that. Hemlock Valley, we've started to do some work down there. We're not gonna go out to engineering on it, something that doesn't need engineering, or we have enough information to do the engineering in-house, so to speak. Gonna save the town and FEMA considerable amounts of money, because that would have been, one of the options there would have been a very large retaining wall right on the edge of Hemlock Valley Brook, and would have been probably a $500,000 project. We're probably going to do it for $50,000. East Shore Drive, and we should be starting finally getting that repaired. Anyone here out on East Shore Drive?
Not far from it.
Not far.
Other side of it.
Look at it with binoculars there.
I'd walk it very often.
So, I don't know, that was damaged during the flooding, and had a lot of big stone put in it to stabilize it, and we're going to be doing, putting some new gravel and things on there. The problem there is that the roadway and what the town owns is only 15 feet wide, so it's pretty hard to do much in the way of significant maintenance there. And we have never done drainage easements anywhere on that road, and the average pipe, as Bob knows, is 20 feet long, so makes it a little bit awkward in a couple places where it drained. It's fairly near surface wells, so we have to address all those things. So we'll be doing drainage easement paperwork on those to do it properly. Again, that hasn't been done yet. It's in their work, so they're going to start the job, but just leave the areas where the drainage cross pipes are for later on.
Rob, was that the main problem out on that road, was where the drainage was coming basically from the highland, trying to get underneath?
Saturated, coming up from the east to the west towards
and it had to get into those pipes in order to get to the lake.
So, yeah. I mean, last year, or it was way back before that, but that spring of 2019, it was so saturated that people were getting stuck on the road. So we're talking about the gravel portion. There's a section of that road that is gravel, but as it winds around the marsh and everything over there. If you're familiar with it, a lot of water comes from the east and sheds towards the lake. Right now, the crew's working on Mitchell Road, which is has become a very popular shortcut between Hopyard Road and Tater Hill. Joe's nodding his head, so I'm assuming he's racing up there himself. So
I stay off of it, but yeah, I used to be up
there.
there.
A lot of people that live in those subdivisions. It's a shortcut. It's from, if you think about it, people go from Mount Parnassus to Warner Road to A.B. Gates to Tater Hill, down Mitchell to Hopyard Road. So to get down to 156, and amazing amount of traffic on that road right now. So that's getting all done and regraded, and new pipes put in there, etc. They got one more cross pipe to put in there, and they're increasing the size of the pipes to cut down on the
washout. Yeah, a lot of water.
Is this
it's
all?
A beautiful road.
Is this all with FEMA money?
It's all FEMA monies that we're expending.
Yep.
We're hoping that, well, according to all the rules and everything, we should be getting 75% of it back.
Okay.
So the big issue is that we would like some of it back now to improve our financial situation,
Right.
but they lumped everything in together, and we're trying to get them to separate it out again. So Cindy's working on that, but some of that came to a halt because of the budget stuff. But they're still doing paperwork, trying to make them understand that.
There's a cash flow around here, right?
Anyway, the tree money that we had set aside, $150,000 last year for this fiscal year, is gone. It's been gone about a month. We still have money, separate money for emergencies. They just took down a 54-inch tree on Mitchell Road. We had a contractor take it down. What we're doing is addressing trees that are dangerous, dead, and if they fell or parts of them fell, they would impact structures, whether it's houses, barns, fences, cars, whatever. And this particular tree was leaning to the north, right, and would have impacted the house right on the corner there of Hopyard Road and Mitchell Road. So that's been, that was removed yesterday. So those are the types of things we're addressing right now.
54 inches, man.
That was a big tree.
That was a
That
big
one we're gonna
tree.
have to grind the stump because now it won't be so obvious to
Right.
avoid, but,
On that corner.
I mean, it was pretty big so you could see it, but now it's gonna be, there's, the stump's only 6 inches, 8 inches high, but, it's right at the edge of the pavement and the road kinda went around it a little bit, so we're gonna grind it just so in case someone
Yeah.
gets a little wayward and they don't clean
Yeah.
out an A-frame on their car. In case you haven't noticed, we haven't had much of a winter, so we have a pretty good snow removal surplus, and we're going to look at working with the Board of Finance to reassign that to tree removal, so we can get the tree crews back in here. One thing, I'm talking about surplus, well, the budget obviously has been going on, and we're trying to figure out, again, how to address everybody's wants and needs. I don't know if you're aware of it, Bob, but you have $1,800 in the funds in their account for brochures.
Okay.
So,
What's left from this year, or that's in there now? Yeah.
so we're looking for an additional 1,000 for next year, but you got 1,800 sitting there waiting to be printed if you want to use,
Okay.
get some more brochures.
Yeah, it's something
Start
we should
getting them out,
talk
so.
about.
Yes,
With
and-
all
and
the
that
rest
is-
areas open.
Yes, because we're going to obviously want to get that going.
So, and Pat Band's hike in the hop yard reminded me that I'm going to reach out to Jack Hine to get his crew to get all the trails fixed up, cleaned up from this, well, his very limited crew of 2 or 3 or 4, whatever, with using seasonals too, to get the trails cleaned up at all his 5 big parks here. Sunrise, Macamudas, the Hop Yard, and the Hop Castle, so that people can get out there. If we're going to send people to the trails and hiking and everything, whether it's your program or water our watershed, which is through the 8 Mile, it'd be nice to have trails so we're not looking for people lost in the wilds of East Haddam.
Can he coordinate with the Boy Scouts for stuff like that?
He can, if he can.
I can get you contacts.
I can give you his number.
We can do that.
Ready? 860-526-2336.
And what was his name
Jack
again?
Hine.
Jack Hine?
He's the new manager down there. He's been there since sometime before. So, very interested in getting stuff done, and reach out to him, or you can, I don't, doesn't make any difference who calls it first, but tell him
We'll get it done.
they need work.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's about all I've got. I don't know, is there any questions from anybody about what's cooking?
Later on in the agenda here, I've got a couple of things like that. Where's the transfer station?
Still up there.
Is it still up there? You haven't moved it? Okay, great.
Next
Now,
question.
the next question is we were proposing to do some changes up there. Where
Yes,
is
we're still
that?
planning on doing that.
This rerouting or?
Part of it's going to be rerouting. Part of it's going to be maybe not letting certain things go up back to control some of the activity that goes up there.
Okay.
In the budget, for this coming year, are purchasing covers for about 3 of the open tops up there.
Yeah.
If they will work, we have to check one more measurement so that.
That's to keep the cardboards, the paper dry. Yeah.
So that doesn't increase significant weight increase.
Yep.
You know, there's been arguments that it's a part of it and it isn't part of it, but it's one of those things we'll find out probably.
Good
when we
call.
put them up there, about $3,500, but the idea is that one person can flip them up and drop them in and pull them back down again at the end of the day.
Yeah. Because certainly Haddam, I mean, they cover all their
Well,
papers.
I mean, their everything is covered with those
Those roofs.
very attractive roofs sticking 30 feet up in the air.
Yeah.
Right in front of the view of the
Of the river, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a
apparently
good,
the seniors don't say much.
yes.
But,
We'll have to worry about that.
of course, they did take their only piece of access to the river and put a dump on it. Transfer station.
Yes,
At least we moved away from the river with ours.
yes.
So that is one thing going on up there. They had a contractor do basically an OSHA inspection, and which found a number of issues, and a lot of the issues were responsibility of Willimantic Waste. They've addressed those from a very dangerous electrical box, which was falling off a post and had exposed wires with 480 volts, and the wire nut had rotted out of the box, so everything's just kind of floating there and waiting to fall on the ground. So that's been addressed. The new Ram that were renting or leasing from Willimantic Waste, because ours was so far gone, we had no choice. Cost us $350 a month, but and it's not as powerful as the other one was. But in the meantime, it is functioning and it's servicing fairly well, not perfectly, but it was tipped wrong. So when we got into the juicy part of the season, when everything was liquid and making liquid as it fermented in the garbage trucks and everything, a lot of this juice would come out and drain to the corner, not away from the building, and besides causing a very sticky situation, it's also a very sticky situation, and so that's been corrected. It's now draining the right way, and also when they did the new electrical work for that, they disconnected the lockout tagout system and made that inoperable. So the crew had been using an OSHA approved ashtray to put over the switch to tell somebody that they're
He really meant that.
not to turn it on. So that's been corrected, or will be corrected in the next week.
Could you tell us where you get those? I
Yeah,
think we
please.
all
You
probably
want one
could
of those?
use one of those
You have to go to the
OSHA-approved
OSHA
sweatshirts.
It was probably in the whatnot there.
The whatnot corner. Okay, that's where it comes
They're
from.
$1,000 at the OSHA store, or you can get them right at the whatnot corner. In any event, that's been corrected now, and or will be momentarily, very shortly. Because I brought it up again to have it corrected. So that's what's going on up there.
I just had one.
I got a bunch of Jersey barriers were donated by Consumer Reports, Consumers Union rather, from the track that were sitting out there, and we had a crew working right out at Ackley. That Ackley Road there?
Ackley Cemetery.
One of those roads out there.
Yes,
And
we know.
they came back, and while they were there, and they brought them back. So they're stockpiled there for us to make the changes. So we got to do some things, move things around, and make some operational changes. But they're slowly improving the situation up there.
You said at the selectmen's meeting that you've had some discussions with the contractors about how they handle that situation.
Yeah, so I met with the two primary contractors here, Bahilo, which is All Waste, and
Jansky.
Thank you, and about what's going to be going on, and what we're looking at, what they recommended. So some of the things I thought made a lot of sense.
Good.
We'll be investigating those and seeing if we can implement those to make it more efficient. And we're going to be looking at improving our recycling. The big problem with recycling is that with single stream, as far as the plastics are concerned, where that's about the only place there's any money right now, is that all the glass gets mixed in, and they can separate paper out pretty easy, but glass gets mixed into the plastic, and that's a big no-no for anyone trying to work with the plastic, because at some point they can't work with it, and they have issues with plastic. I mean, glass in the plastic, and that's one of the big contamination issues. And if you separate the glass out, which is what we used to do years ago when everything was separated, it's being used, ground up and used in many applications besides being, turned into glass, used in paving and as a filler binder in paving, and a number of different ways. But the problem is that now it's hard to separate it once it gets into little pieces. So that's that, and I'm trying to think what else is going on.
Is there any money in the cardboard, Bob?
Not a lot of money in anything recyclable right now. And cardboard is one thing.
Yeah.
And some people say there's some issues with cardboard. I mean, cardboard's cardboard, I think.
Right.
But the problem is one of the big problems is there's so much cardboard being generated by Amazon and all these delivery, all those FedEx packages and everything else we get nowadays. It's just amount of cardboard is really just run out of sight, and I think it'd be, there's a lot of talk about keeping it from going up back. It's pretty easy to have a pickup truck load of cardboard nowadays if you do a lot of stuff at Amazon or whatever, but it's actually more efficient if we can separate it and get it ripped down to size and keep it from up back where it gets wet and everything else. So,
Didn't we used to bail it? I mean, is there any money in that?
there's the whole issue on recyclables is constantly changing situation, and I can't tell you where the money is right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
To be honest, I just don't think
I haven't kept up with it either.
It's a mess.
we used to bail, they'd go into the building down there and we bail inside that building, but we haven't done it in years when they went to single stream. Our recycling rate has dropped about 100%. So it went from about 50 to 60% to 25 to 30%.
All right, anybody else have any questions about that?
Tree removal budget for next year, $500,000.
So I put it for $500,000
Oh, we're
as
seeing
kind of a
things.
placeholder.
Yeah, it is.
Liz Lunt, our Public Works Administrator, put in for 1.7. Our estimate right now is that there are 8,000 trees. If you feel
On public land.
on that would be the responsibility of the town to take care of. There's 12,000. What we've done is for want of a better word, a windshield survey. See what is out there. We did, I think, about 20 miles of road, and then we extrapolated those numbers out to our 120 miles of road. Now, we've done a lot of work on some of the roads, and for whatever reason, no one was keeping track of how many trees have been removed. So we're addressing that now, which is basically someone going along counting 1 stump, 2 stump, 3 stump, 4. But what also happened is stuff that was done a year ago, where they weren't taking down ashes that were live, those ashes are now dead. So some roads that were addressed now have dangerous trees back on them. But so going back to that, they had about 12,000 trees in the town. The estimates are 30 to 40% are Eversource trees, their responsibility. Eversource is looking at trees only if they have they're very dangerous and they potentially will impact 3-phase systems.
Right.
If they're on a single wire or 2-phase, their feeling is that they'd rather let the tree fall and then clean up the mess until they can get to it. Right, and their plan, I don't know, we probably saw it in the paper last week, they put in for $86 million, or appropriate $86 million for tree removal in the entire state of Connecticut. East Haddam, they're supposed to be working on Cherry Swamp, Stockburger, and several of the feeder roads and lines going back to private homes in that particular area. Next year, they'll be back here doing a lot more work. So that's about, early on we were estimating $1,000 per tree. So if you're taking 8,000 trees, you can see where that 1.7 million won't necessarily do it either. So, but we're looking at using mechanized equipment such as distinctive tree care, where they can do maybe as many as 100 trees in a day. So it's expensive, but the production is about $500 or less per tree. They have equipment that will chip a 43-inch log, squirt it right into a live bed truck, which can unload in 60 yards or whatever it is in 3 minutes. And of course, then we have to figure out what to do with all those chips.
I was going to say, where are you dumping it?
Dump some at my house.
What's that?
I need a lot of them.
I need some.
That's a lot of
Well,
chips.
that may be what goes on with a lot of
Love it.
we've actually started a composting operation using chips up at the Harris
Yeah,
Community Garden. So,
yeah, that's what we do
but
too.
in any event, but that chipper, by the way, drives right down the road, self-propelled, and the guy just sits there and it blows either wherever you want, into the woods, has a gravel, picks the log up, runs it through the chipper. It actually can do 50 miles an hour down the road, so not while it's shipping.
Now, man, that's efficient.
Somebody would ask that question.
That is efficient.
Don't go down Mitchell Road.
That'll be the test. I'll see what I can do.
So one of the, they take the entire trees down without ever touching a chainsaw. I mean, it's all mechanized, and all the equipment is, you can go right on the roads with it. So it's under contract. Right now, their business is slow, and we're looking to see if we can get them in here fairly quickly. Again, they can do 2 and 3 times faster than the people in bucket trucks, but they can't work around power lines. So we're looking at having a joint project as a demonstration effort on Alger Road, where though the road may change, where bucket trucks go ahead of distinctive, and once they get the wires, they cut the trees back at least 10 feet from wires, you can, the mechanized equipment can come in and work. They're all certified to work around power lines, but they don't want them getting that close where there's, 2 and 3 feet from power lines. So, again, the beauty of it is when they're done, they're done. There's nothing left there, it's just chips. There's nothing to handle at all. So, but that's good. I mean, again, it's more expensive, but we want to see how the whole thing would work and try and get a cooperative program going. And we might be the demonstration project for the state.
Yeah.
Eversource. Yeah. If we can get chips up to Plainfield, they'll give us $18 a ton. I don't know how many cubic yards chips make a ton. So there's a question as to, is it economically viable to ship them or find someone to ship them, at least to cover the cost.
Well, Morin's got those big trailers that he takes up there with the ships on it, and maybe we could work something cooperative with him.
We can do that, but again, we have to figure out if we're losing money shipping it there. If they're taking up 10 ton, and that's $180, but it's costing us $300, and
I think he runs 50 ton of this. I think that's what they are.
Of chips.
Yeah.
With a live floor,
Yeah, and I'll ask him.
Yeah,
I'll ask him how many.
I'm curious if it's 50 tons, then it's probably worth us doing. That's just under.
He covers a lot. Those trailers are big.
I know they're big trailers. I just have no concept what.
I don't.
How much ton of chips
are on those things. I will ask him, and I will let you know, just so you have an idea anyway. And
it's going to be something we're going to have to think about how to deal with, because I don't know if you've been to any of our stockpile areas, but
they're huge. Those piles,
and they're getting bigger. So.
Yeah, they're going to get bigger. Rob, thank you. That gives us a lot of info as what's going on around here a little bit. And Economic Development Administrator's Report. We have the tax incentive program. We've looked into this. It's what we have is pretty much all the state statutes will let us do. So I think that we've got to basically utilize what we have and see if we'd really like to get a couple of people to apply for this. So I think at least I know there's one out there that may be going to apply, and I think that they're very close, and we'd like to maybe get one more to see if we can't kind of demonstrate that the program works and how it is, and maybe we can talk it up a little bit, and certainly if we can have anybody do anything in Moodus or something and get this tax incentive program out there. I think it's something that we can offer to a developer to take and do some work and get some reasonable tax incentives to do it. So anyway, do you have anything else, Irene, you'd like to?
Yeah, just wanted to say that the 2020 visitor guide work is being done now. The updates and the new photos and any additional new businesses in town need to give me write-ups so that we get them in the new book, and then that'll be going to the printer, and we'll be printing out a whole new book for this year and get those out to once they get back from the printer and get them out to all the places we need to get them out to. So that'll all be going along soon. There's a write-up for it in the newspaper. East Haddam News has a write-up so that people understand that I'm coming by, or sending them an email saying this looks good. You want to make any additions.
Okay, forget it, what's the church that meets up at the high school? They called me, because that one is not in there. It's Harvest, I think, yeah.
Harvest Church.
I don't think that's in there. He called me and asked if they couldn't get in, so could you just give them a call and, so that they could, felt like they didn't get in last year, and so they asked me if we could make sure they get in this year.
Okay.
Have you been in touch with the pharmacies about that?
Yep. Yep.
How many are we printing this year?
I have to check and see how many we did last year to be able to tell you how many more we're doing this year. Cause
I think it was 4, wasn't it? Didn't we do 4,000?
did we do 4,000
I think it was
last year?
4,000.
3,800 or.
But we're going to add another 1,000 to it.
At least,
Yeah.
without, I mean, with all the rest areas open up and,
Yeah.
you know, I think anybody, because we're a member of the Middlesex Chamber, right?
Yes.
We should have some in their
Yep,
facility.
they had them. Yeah, we
Anybody
got them up
that's,
there.
you know, in any other chambers, we should be putting those in the chamber offices.
Yeah, yeah, certainly the Saybrook one was always a good one. And Westbrook, of course, 95 is a good one. So, and those are because those are the ones that bring people in here.
Yeah.
And so that's new business that comes in here. And
Again, if I might, I'm sorry, but you do have that 1,800 that you want to spend before the end of this fiscal year because it goes away, so.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, well
They'll be done
we'll be
before then,
putting
right?
those out
We should
in April. We'll be printing in April, have them on.
So spend it all.
Yep.
Spend it all. Do it.
No.
We
So
need
that, yeah, we should be
Easy,
available
easy.
for in May. Yeah, it's not hard. It's not hard.
It'll all come back.
I have a hard time with the Bob's got to really bend my arm when it comes to.
Yeah, we don't get an affirmative vote out of you very much.
Hey, Bob.
Done.
Guys got
The
some.
tax incentive plan,
Yes.
how broad a range is that? Is it just new construction?
No,
Change?
basically it's the last changes we made. The first run, all it was improvements to the property.
Okay.
Then when we revised it, it was your purchase cost of the property plus the improvements.
Okay.
And that was the big change, and that made all the difference in the equation. Because before, it wasn't worth doing because, you know, you spent $100,000, and it just wasn't enough there to make it worth your while. But when we basically, so now if you go buy a commercial piece of property, you pay $500,000 for it, and you put $500,000 in it. Now you got $1 million investment. You can use the tax incentive for the whole $1 million. And so I think that I wanted to see if we could up the amounts and within there's 3 categories depending on the amount of dollars we're talking about. But state statute holds you pretty tight to what you can do. And so the really what's there is what we're going to sell. And but I think that I've talked to people about it, and they said they don't even know it's out there. Right. And I've talked to realtors who are basically have some of these listings on commercial properties. They don't know it's out there. So we need to somehow get it out to certainly the people who are in the business of real estate and certainly the realtors, so that they know that this is there. So when they're selling it and putting together a package, they can show that, okay, your costs for your first 2 years or 3 years are going to be reduced, so that when you take advantage of this program. But, you know, equally, you got to get approved by, you know, this board, the Board of Selectmen, and a town meeting. So,
You know what we need for that?
what?
A shiny brochure that sums it up and just goes out.
I think that's a real good idea.
That's what it needs.
500 of that.
Needs to
1,800
look
left
pretty.
over.
Needs to be shiny.
Well, no, we're going to use that on the visitor's guide, but I think you're right.
Yeah,
think
I mean,
that-
we have a
Yeah.
packet, but we need to sum it up.
Yeah,
We need to have
and
something that's
dress it up a
attractive,
little bit.
attracting them to read the entire document because
Yes,
it's extensive.
Yeah, and make it in something that'll last. It can't
Right.
just be on a piece of paper like
Right,
this.
exactly.
It's got to be something that's
That real estate agents can hand over as they're working.
Yes, I like that idea. We're
Well, you
definitely.
only know what you know. Somebody sent me a copy of state statute that says if you do change of use on the property, all of them improvements are exempt from sales tax. If you bought a piece of property and you put it in a package store,
Yeah.
if you purchase all the improvements that you did there, the materials should be tax exempt.
Yeah, I
Wow.
read that. There's more ifs and ands and buts to it, like everything else on these things. But it was very
Yeah,
interesting.
I didn't go into it, you know, I
Yeah.
spent all my money already.
But I did get that document, and at first I thought, whoa, this looks really good. But when you get into it,
It's hard to take advantage of.
it's only certain people in certain places where you buy things. But I think it would be a good thing for maybe
But
this
it's
board
another
to take
thing.
a look at,
Yeah,
and
I'd
so
like to
that
see
we
that.
could put that in with it, so that because there is certain areas where that holds. Yeah, yeah, and again, it's good for business.
If anyone is interested in it, the program is in our ordinances, it's on the town website.
I was gonna say, it's on our website.
Yeah,
It is?
Gave me the copy. Yeah, it has been.
290, Article 8, Section 290, it's under Chapter 290 taxation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. I will pull that up tonight and take a good look at that and
I'll
see.
go home and do your homework.
Yes, and but I think that would be a good thing to put in with our tax incentive program.
Could
One,
be a little insert.
yeah, one more thing out there. Mike, would you like to update us on anything from tourism
no,
or
I don't
anything
have a whole lot
from
on-
EHBA?
No, I think I'll defer to Jess for the EHBA.
Okay.
Oh, no, you won't.
All
Let's see what I can, come on.
right, what can you come
All
up
right,
with?
let's
and
see
tell
what I
us?
can sum it up. It's
All
almost
right.
8 o'clock. All right,
Yes,
so
yes.
So we had our board meeting on, God, it was last night. It feels like a week ago. It was last night. We had a board meeting. And our next meeting is on March 18th. It's at River Valley Provisions and Tony's Package Store, and they're newer members of the organization. We had a lengthy discussion about Celebrate East Haddam, which is coming up. So May 30th, mark your calendars, still at Heritage Park, 11 to 3. The application is actually going out tomorrow morning. There will be a link in our Friday newsletter. And then on Monday, the application will be available on our website so that people can start signing up. We're looking for sponsorships. We're also looking for vendors, as per usual. So we are, looking to, our booth fees are pretty much the same. Members are $25, non-members are $35. And the goal is to donate all of the proceeds to local organizations. And last year we donated more than we've ever donated before. So every year it grows. So it's great. We're hoping for better weather. We know that field is going to be a lot drier 1 month later. It is going to be, that is our only.
That was the tough one last year. Boy,
We've always had decent weather, like fair weather, but last year was really tough.
Yes, that was a tough. That was
It was
mud.
Tough mud.
Yeah,
That
and
was
cold.
mud.
And very cold. Yeah, it was not very nice. And 4 a.m. tour around the field wasn't pleasant either. So, especially because I don't really live on that end of town. So, so there was a lot of discussion about the planning and the schedule of meetings and the folks that are going to be helping us organize the event, the organizations that will be involved. So you'll see a lot more on that within the week. We're also looking to get our deal in with the town because we're looking to schedule our date for the Business Expo. We're still looking at the last Tuesday of October to keep things consistent. And so that application should be coming in next week. So we're still looking to do it at the municipal site right here in this building. It's a very useful space. It gives us some nice bragging rights, and it gets lots of people from the region here to see and experience business from a different angle, from several different angles, right, in our facility. Summer picnics, because there's a lot going on. We've got our schedule.
Talk about the expo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I've
Please.
got all your parking signs too.
Cool. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I don't want to keep going, but there's
Yeah.
always things going on, so you
Okay.
can ask me anything.
All right, no, and just
are the
nice
big
to
ones.
know, get a little idea as to what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And great. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any questions on that? No? Okay, I just we kind of went over the Lower Town Street. Basically, we're right now looking at finding some money to basically start to work with the engineer to go over that. Business Association just took care of that. Moodus Improvement Subcommittee, and we went over that earlier in the agenda, that we're just, we'll be setting up very shortly. Proposed expansion in the industrial zone, I think that's off the table. We're going to take that off the agenda. Could you just note that we're going to take that off? That was something that was being proposed. It seems like it's on the back burner now. I'd like to get into new business. Something that I'd just like to add to the agenda. It was on my original agenda, but apparently it didn't get on the agenda. It's membership. Does anybody have membership on their agenda? They don't. Okay. Oh, yours has it. Okay. Apparently some of them that came out have membership on that. And, but anyway, let me just.
It is.
We have two guests tonight. They've both volunteered to like to serve on the committee, and so I asked them to come tonight and introduce themselves to us and just give us a little background. And Bill, maybe I'm going to let you go first, and maybe you could just give the board a little idea of who you are and what you do and what interests you might have in working with economic development.
Sure. My name is Bill McHenry. Live over on Lumberyard Road. Moved into town in 2015. My wife and I are avid cyclists. I own Pedal Power bicycle store. We have 5 stores around the state. Been in business since 1996 with my partner, and we've been, fairly successful, fairly lucky with everything we do. And I've got interested in, finally, after a few years of being in town, life is settling down a little bit, so I was looking for an opportunity to get involved, and I thought this was an appropriate place, given my background, that I could apply my talents, if you want to call them that.
Bill, what brought you to East Haddam? What was there? Any particular reason? Was it?
The river, the Connecticut River, but also its proximity to my stores. Yeah. And I used to live in Willimantic, and then lived up in Eastern Connecticut since I moved to Connecticut in 1990, and then moved down this way, and my fiance at the time. She had a house down in Niantic, and it was a bit of a commute, and she was down by the water in Niantic, which was very nice. So this was, just an opportunity to kind of find a nice place.
Well, you're pretty close to the water there.
Yeah. And so so it was just kind of I gravitate towards the being out in the woods and things like that. And town was a nice mix of being close to Middletown, where you can go get a dinner if you want, or walk in the woods. Yeah. So yeah. And I've been involved. I'm not actively involved with the Middlesex Chamber of Commerce. It got a little too busybody for me. I don't, as a retailer, I didn't need to go to morning breakfasts to talk to the mayor or hang out with the police chief or something. And there are other businesses where I think has its advantages. But we are, so for instance, I don't know if you're familiar with, Middletown has the business interest district, so that we, on the Main Street area of Middletown, we pay an extra half point in a mill rate, and then that money goes into that whole, when you see people watering plants or putting up banners or part of the car show and all that. So I'm familiar with what economic development goes on and what.
Are you a part of that group?
They hired that money allowed them to hire a full-time person who runs it, and and then they have volunteers, and they have some part-time people, and they have contractors who do the plantings and things like that. So it's a whole improvement area, and it's more of just merchants who are supportive of the whole thing, or the downtown kind of people and stuff. Nice. So that's some of my experiences and some of what I know and things like that, and I can think in businessy terms and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, great. No, appreciate you coming in tonight and just letting us know.
Thanks for listening.
What you're doing. Chip, we're gonna give you a chance to take a look.
So I understand there's a regular seat and there's an alternate seat, correct? Is that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll introduce myself a little bit. Jed Malone. I live on East Haddam Road, so sort of on the bend there, near the defunct Cumberland Farms, that beautiful eyesore.
Are you right next door to that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the old butcher shop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
that's the
yellow,
property
yeah.
you have?
Yeah.
Oh, well, great.
So
Great if you can get rid of it.
Yeah, if you get rid of that other building. But that's a nice
you
building.
do some nice parking, yeah.
Yeah, you got a nice building there, though.
Yeah. But yeah, I have a construction background growing up. My father ran a two-man construction business, 2 men, and then whatever son he had available during the summers. So I did that for like 10 years during the summers, and then I went into education. So the past decade I've been a teacher. I taught college, taught high school, and then my wife's job brought her to Connecticut. And so I came along, which is great. I was excited to come to Connecticut, but I really fought for out here in this area because the prices are better and you get more, and I wanted space and I wanted nature, and it's beautiful. I like that. I mean, it comes, we all realize that, you know, I didn't know there wasn't going to be a supermarket moving here. We were told there was a supermarket coming back, so, you know, something I wanted to get involved with from the beginning is just sort of, you know, getting involved in the community. I got my real estate license. I'm associated over in Hebron at Century 21. I formed an LLC. I'm going to be renovating houses that I purchased at tax sales. So a little bit mixed bag, but I'm trying to just get more involved in the community and, you know, hoping to really help support, you know, sort of revitalizing this. It's a great community and I love the nature of it, but, you know, I think we could all do with a little bit more robust business and more tourism and more. It's tough to convince my wife's business colleagues who are in temporary housing to come down here when they say there's no supermarket, you know? So that sort of things. I think the area has a lot of appeal and I think it's overlooked. And, yeah.
I think that's one of our jobs is that we have to basically sell it and basically get the word out. We've got some really nice stuff here, and I think if we promote it properly, we can do exactly what you're saying. You know, to get people to come to the area and enjoy it, and I think it'll be a great help. And, well, thank you very much for taking and coming in and introducing yourselves to it. And we'll be a little later in the meeting. We'll be talking about it, and so I'm certainly glad you're here and you could hear some of the stuff we're going on. And certainly feel you can stay right here and listen to the rest of it. But all right, nominations.
It indicated or asked, was there was an opening for alternate and a member?
Yes.
Did you have a preference or?
I mean, just even comparing our experience, it's obvious that, you know, you're a better fit, I think, for the permanent member, but it's something that I'd like to grow into, you know. So I'd be happy with alternate personally. I recognize I'm newer to the community, and
Well,
but in fairness, you know.
I came in as alternate years ago, and what ends up happening, you can verify this, that whenever you show up at a meeting, you're seated for somebody that's absent. So an alternate has as much say as any other member. So you will be active.
I'm not here for the ego. I won't be putting that on
Like the
business
rest
cards.
We all came for the check, but we're still missing the checks. I don't know.
Maybe if we got rid of that Cumberland Farms, we could have one.
Right, yes.
No.
Maybe it'd help.
It's nice that they kind of complement each other. As one's down by the village and one's down in Moodus.
Yeah,
too, so that's
perfect.
kinda
Yeah,
nice.
that's nice.
That's absolutely perfect.
Geographically, we're doing pretty good.
All right, business of the month. We have the business for March, which is Town Tavern. We also have for May, Wolf's Den. But we need to take and basically have one for April. And I think, let's see, Town Tavern.
Mentioned a couple last time, didn't we?
Yes, and basically I wrote a few of these down here, and does anybody know the
Is it in the middle?
what is it, Deep Root? Is it Deep Root?
The hair salon?
Yeah, hair
Is
salon.
that in East Haddam? Why am I thinking
that's
it's
in Haddam.
Haddam?
That
It's
was
right
in
over
Haddam.
the,
Okay, then
There's-
what's
there's
up
one in
next to the
Gristmill.
gristmill? What's
Yeah.
that one?
oh, that's the one. It's changed a few times, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what it is right now.
Okay.
I don't get my hair done, so I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm right there with you.
Okay.
Yeah, you're doing a pretty good job.
Is there a problem here? Apparently, you're not going to use those services very much.
His barber doesn't
Should
know
know.
what to do with my hair.
But I was thinking,
Be a big shop, though.
if we're doing something that's basically around the four corners this month, it's nice if we go somewhere else. If we go to Moodus and pick one up in Moodus. So, let's see if we could find one there. And because May is Wolf's Den.
So I can give you a
that's
few suggestions. I asked the board last night if they had any suggestions, and I
Oh.
could tell you some. I actually had a bigger list, but I left that sheet on a clipboard at home, so I have remembered some of it from memory.
Okay, go
In
ahead.
that area, we thought maybe Nutmeg Pharmacy because they're fairly new and they filled some shoes. Village Pizza, no one could recall that they were ever chosen, so we thought they're in Moodus. Moodus Ice Cream Parlor is right there, and we don't think they've ever been chosen. Scott Energy is in Moodus, and they haven't been chosen that we know of.
No.
E&P, but he's kind of in transition.
Right, well, that's on the list already. He's already for one of the upcoming months.
Well,
EMP.
that's the thing, is
But-
that he's there for April, but he's since closed and moving his business to his
To his
home.
home.
So we
for
might
now.
swap out
So-
April for,
We
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
put a
okay.
I'd rather
brick
do
and
some-
mortar.
Right.
I'd rather see
That's
him get
true.
settled.
Got it.
Yep.
So any of those, I think, I know there were more, but
Well, basically, we were talking about one I thought was that we had talked about at our last meeting was Skip Broom, basically the parodies.
these are Moodus, or are we just talking in general?
In general.
Okay. Okay, I was just thinking of the Moodus ones.
Skip Room is the industrial area. Parodies are in the industrial area. Scully is a new business. They was in Moodus, is now moved over to the Four Corners.
Do we want to wait until they get built?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
right. Yeah, good idea.
Oh, yeah, I would say.
Johnson Marine Parts, New England
Johnson
Propeller
Marine- Yeah, and you wonder, I
New
thought,
England
too.
Propeller, yeah.
would be a good one.
Yeah.
They've been around a long time.
Yeah, and we haven't done anything with Moss and Son.
No,
I mean,
that's a good one too.
That's an old company here. Matter of fact, probably one of the oldest companies around. I mean, they date back, I think, to I don't know, the 20s sometime. So
Moss is an interesting story because he pretty much started the Ambulance Association.
Yes, he did.
yeah, he was
Don.
very, very involved with
So
it.
We might sick
Somebody that should be
David on
recognized.
this one, that one.
Pardon me.
Let David do that one.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And yeah, I think that certainly that's third generation. That's there now. So
There you go.
that's kind of an
Pop it in,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
April.
Want to do that for April? Okay.
I don't know if anyone disagrees. Why
No,
not?
that's it's an old time, excellent East Haddam business here. And,
What's the name of it again, Bob?
Moss and Son.
MAUS.
MAUS. They're an oil company and plumbing company.
Right-
Yeah.
right across the
You've
street.
seen them before.
Yeah.
Bob, you want to ask for a motion? If that's
Motion.
for motion,
Yeah. For
get to-
basically.
for April.
For April, yeah, okay, and so we'll this was what we'll stick with for, for February, March, and April. Okay, anybody want to
I
make a
move
motion for that?
to elect Moss and Son for April's Business of the Month.
Okay,
I'll second it.
second, all those in favor? Aye.
Leak proof.
Okay, we're all set with businesses of the month for a little while.
Oh, my God.
Got really excited there, Joe.
And we thought it was water, but we're wondering now.
I've been in the ambulance before. So.
Yeah.
Tonight?
No. Maybe.
Just wanted to, Chatham Health District, I've had a couple of reports come back that they have not been doing so
Yeah,
well with a
I
couple
agree,
of
too.
contractors.
I've had a few as well,
Okay.
just in
I
the last
think
couple
we
weeks.
probably need to set up a meeting, probably Irene and myself, maybe we should go back and talk to them and see if they're going to get a permanent person who's going to do East Haddam. I mean, that was the last time he was into EDC. And I think that there's definitely been some problems with Chatham Health. And Rob.
So they've hired a new person.
Oh.
Who worked here formerly, Ryan.
Oh, God.
Was here several years ago. I'm sorry, I forgot.
I remember that name. I just
Okay.
don't remember his face.
And they have regular hours here now. And
Is Ryan assigned to this town?
Primarily, there's no one specifically.
I know, yeah.
But generally, he's been in here most of the last, and he started here 2 weeks ago, so a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
Well, why don't we invite
Yeah.
Ryan to come in and talk? Would that be out of line to ask him to meet with rather than seeing the director, or should we be going to the director?
Well, I
think
go
you
to the
should go to
director
the-
and
yeah.
ask him. They may both want to come in.
Okay. I mean, cool. Let's make and ask the director, and then basically what we're looking for is to find out what the scheduling would be for East Haddam and who the agent would be to cover East Haddam.
Is Ryan doing all of it? Is like he's going to be doing a restaurant as well, or?
But they're
Okay.
also training some new people do restaurant inspections. So
Right.
Typically, that's one that's out by itself. They don't usually have
Yeah,
the
so
ones.
that's who I heard from, was
Right.
restaurant, and it
Yeah.
didn't go well.
Yeah.
So
Right.
the training inspections
training.
are typically much
One was
more
training when that happened.
all-encompassing,
Where?
and
We're talking about the same place.
so they have a number of things that
She
they go
was there
through
by herself.
to every nook and cranny and inspect every
Oh, no?
thing. So some of the inspections have gone less than, people have been somewhat surprised where they got dinged, shall we say.
Mhm.
But, nothing that was gonna close anybody down, but, things that would, again, would be more,
That's the inspector?
That's the-
I don't know if they'd be, they wouldn't be overlooked, but,
Right.
when they're training them, they wanna make sure they understand what they're looking for, and everything gets very close scrutiny, and so some people's scores were lower than what they're used to, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and what I heard was that basically it was approved by one inspector, and then when you got to the final thing, they basically the inspector said that it wasn't approved anymore. And that's what really can't happen. You can't have one inspector saying it's okay, and then another inspector coming back and say it's not okay.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, there were some other issues as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
a lot of mistreatment and
Yes.
almost bullying, really.
Yep.
That's what I would label it
That's
as.
how they felt.
That's what I heard too. That
Yeah.
they were not pleasant.
And that's like the old school way, not the new school way.
Yes.
So we need to go back to the board.
Yeah, and basically, let's take and have it so, all we want is respect, that's all.
Right.
Just be respectful.
And the one-
And on both sides.
Are we talking about a building that is very near this building?
I'm not.
Mm-mm,
Okay.
no, there's a few different things going out, but not this
Let's-
particular one.
Why don't we basically put together our thoughts, and then we'll basically have them come, and we'll meet with them, and let's see what we can learn, and see if we can't, it's like we said before, we want to basically work with them, but we want to, when these things get started, let's nip it in the bud, right now, before it gets out of hand.
Right.
And go from there.
And yeah, we just have to be sensitive to the fact that the ones who are presenting these problems are doing it with the understanding that they're anonymous
Yeah,
and that they're feeling very wary or leery of
Yep.
doing so because they don't want to be in trouble.
correct, yeah.
It
And,
might help if you let me know that there's issues.
okay.
Yeah. This is all fresh.
Yeah, I just heard
So-
about it Saturday morning.
So,
Yeah.
some of these things, phone call, and it's not gonna necessarily change it, but I can find out a little bit more, maybe what's going on.
Right, right, and,
Yeah,
and
I
you
guess-
can address it too.
Their director is very, very good about working with people. And,
He is.
He's great.
He does a good job explaining what the issues are, and sometimes maybe the inspectors aren't, so that's, he clarified one issue for us, and I had him reach out to the people that had an issue, and I haven't heard anything else on it, so I'm
Okay.
assuming. And he understands everything from everybody that's involved, so he can clarify, because people are hearing one thing sometimes, but don't understand where all the information is coming from. So it's,
There's always two sides to all these stories
yeah,
out there.
and like I said, you know, I think he was able to reach out and explain to the individual that I was aware of that had a complaint and came to me, and what the problem was. And it wasn't so much what their issue was, it was another state agency actually that had the issue.
Yeah.
And they were just trying to prevent or prepare him to address something that, so he would have had other problems.
Yep.
Well, if I might, for real quickly on the Community Health District, they're doing a great job, I have to say, on keeping us in the loop about anything having to do with COVID-19, aka coronavirus. Next Wednesday, I'll actually be they'll be giving a brief presentation to my staff here in this room, but I'm also going to be talking to them about doing a public presentation to anyone interested about what's going on, because with all the way around us and with all our interstates and everything connecting us to all our neighboring states, there's no question we'll be here soon. And right now there's 200 people in this state being tested for corona. So, I get it basically daily update. So
Good, because that's certainly on everybody's mind right now, and so if we can keep up to date with that, that's great. All right, thank you.
One last thing, it's always on anything that new comes up is on Facebook and it's on the town website. So just if you have any questions on it, it's there.
Great, okay. And EDC's budget request, we requested some money for some infrastructure, and I understand, I guess, that it wasn't approved at all.
I will tell you that we removed that from the budget for two reasons. One is that that was specific to sewer. That has been studied 2 or 3 times already, and it's really the purview of the WPCA. So Board of Finance can put it back in if they want to review it, but that was the reason it was removed. So,
Okay, because that basically, that money was, the majority of that money was basically for the bikeway
In the
down in
village
South
zone.
Point.
It was
okay,
not.
so that wasn't clear in what was presented. So
Okay, all right. So
yeah.
how is
It's
the
open
best?
for a discussion with the Board of Finance. So
Okay, how would we get that across to the Board of Finance? Should we?
you'll have an opportunity at one of the next 3 meetings to
Okay.
explain.
Do you think it would be good for this Saturday, or do you think maybe one of the ones where they don't have all the?
I would look for the agenda. It should be out tomorrow morning and see what they're going to do. I know I'm giving a presentation early on, and the Board of, Brian Reese from the Board of Education will be giving a presentation, and then they'll be starting the process. So.
Okay. Maybe it'd be better if we came in, not while you had those 2 major ones going on.
Unless you want to sit through it.
Yeah, the whole Board of Education stuff, yeah. Okay, then maybe you could let me know, or Irene know that.
Hopefully the agenda, when it's out, will.
Tell us when the next meeting will be.
So what part of that meeting you may want to talk to, because I don't expect the 2 presentations to take more than an hour or so, and we're going to be there from 9 to 4, so.
Okay, so.
And then there's the next 3 Saturdays, 7th, 14th, and 22nd? No, that was 21st.
Oh, okay. So maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to come to the board on this Saturday.
You might, you can always check with Cindy and see where, she thinks will be.
Something for the committees to take and talk. Okay, very good. Thank you. Swing Bridge and Gateway. The grant money, have you made a decision on that you're going to, not grant money, the request, the build grant?
Yeah, we're going to go forward with that again.
This one before.
They always take credit for submitting the grant when you read the paper on the other side.
Haddam, yeah.
Mr. Ventures down the hall here does all the work, so maybe this time I'll just have him give all the paperwork to them and say, okay, you want to take the credit, go ahead.
Okay.
Now do it. But it is a joint project, obviously.
Yeah.
And, Bob, first selectman had me just went on my head.
McGarry.
McGarry.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's totally.
They're looking to get the sidewalk down from 154 up and over the hill down
To the bridge?
railroad track. So
to the road.
to Eagle Landing. So
Yeah.
because that may be helpful in, they've thought, in getting the build grant for the walkway on the bridge. So the walkway on the bridge if the sidewalk isn't in. So You know, it's a chicken and egg issue, but.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, we'll continue working on getting that.
What is that? What is that application? What is it? Build grant?
Build, and I don't remember what the acronym stands for.
Okay, all right, but it is build grant. Okay, and so, all right.
We'll just be resubmitting. I don't think it's significantly different than the last grant.
Yeah. All right. Any public comment? Anybody like to mention anything? All right. Open discussion from the board. Anybody have any thing they'd like to get on agendas or have us work on or talk about that I could put on the agendas down the road, or things you'd like us to kind of look into that we need to do? Nothing in particular? If anybody has anything, just give me a buzz, so that we can basically look into it, and Irene will, can basically do some ground level stuff, and then we'll see, answer anybody's questions or see what needs to be done, and we'll go from there. All right.
I think that farm thing I brought up a long time ago,
The abatement program?
yeah.
Yeah, we're working on
Spoke to
that.
the individual, thank you.
Yep. Yes. Oh, and I did talk to him. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. It was kind of weird. It was an old message and then a new message, and I don't know. That machine in there is kind of weird. I think it's got a mind of its own. It's haunted or something. But yes, I did
Thank you very much.
connect with
Yeah.
them. Yep.
Yeah. I think that's in the process.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. I'd like to go back to membership here and take and consider nominating possibly some new people to the board. I would like to, since we have a regular seat available, I'd like to suggest that we have Jess take that seat. Jess is an alternate. Would you be willing to serve as a regular member?
Yeah, I'm planning on getting to a lot of meetings now.
Okay.
Before, it was a little sketchy, but now, yes.
Why, did you move closer to town or something?
No.
I
got a little more coverage on the farm.
All right, all
That
right.
helps.
Anybody have any comments or thoughts about that? All right, then
I
I'm
nominate Jess Stone.
all right.
I second.
And a second it? All
And
right.
third.
All right, all those in favor of just being a full member of the board, say aye. Aye? Great.
So just,
Gotta go through the second.
The benefits are
Gotta go
good.
through the first select.
just, you recommend to the Board of Selectmen that Jess be moved to a permanent.
Oh, there's
It's been
another
so long.
layer here. Oh,
It's been so
God.
long, right?
I'm a little new at this
All
stuff.
right,
I
it's
can't
all right.
figure all that.
I think we did.
But-
Where did the opening come from? Jim was wondering who left.
Yeah,
Irene.
Oh, that's right,
Irene
Irene
left.
elected herself out of it.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
right.
Yeah. No, it came from them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
To first selectman or board of selectmen?
Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen.
about
Now we'll have,
now we've got two vacant alternate positions. And I'd certainly like to recommend Bill and Judd for those two positions. I think they both would make great members of the board, and I think they both come with some real talents here that would be a nice asset to the board.
And I'll so move
All right, and that recommendation is to
to make the
recommendation
recommendation.
to send the names to the Board of
And I'm Ralph,
Selectmen.
and I'll second.
And you will second it? All right.
You're not Ralph anymore.
I am
Until we get the big
It's
official
Ralph.
stuff. All right.
for tonight.
All right. All those in favor of our two nominees that are here tonight with us?
Aye.
Aye? Aye? Look at that. You got unanimous votes. All right.
Now you're stuck with us. Well, not yet, not officially, but not officially.
So Bob, you'll send that information to the Board of Selectmen
For next meeting, or whenever the board wants to get to it. And, all right, I think.
I'm just taking notes.
All right, anything else that anybody like to bring up?
you, get the notes from our selectmen and notify these gentlemen of the outcome?
Yes, I
Yeah.
think the
I'd
Board
like
of
to know
Selectmen, I think the Board of Selectmen do that.
So what will happen
Spend my
is
time.
They send a letter.
Yeah,
my executive assistant will send a letter out and I'll sign it that day,
I think I remember that.
whatever. And, but just in case it doesn't happen right away, I will let Bob also know that they are members.
Okay.
Thank you.
Assuming we approve it.
Another layer of
We haven't gotten
bureaucracy.
a sucker like, I mean, like that.
That's right. But,
We're gonna go home and sleep on it now, you know.
all
They
right,
can still bail.
no other business, look for a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, aye? All right, Rob, you gotta shut the machine off so that we don't,
Don't worry, I'll take care of that.
all right, we gave you a big job to do.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you, Chuck.
Thanks for coming in.
All right.
So is anybody a cyclist?